Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be reading you a little chapter from this story here, King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table by Roger Lancelin Green. I bought this in a bookshop in Wigton, which is a famous book town in Scotland. And Roger Lancelin Green, the author, was friends with J.R.R. Tolkien, the writer of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and C.S. Lewis. They had a little group where they would meet up and share their ideas. So I really like his take on the Arthurian legends, and I will begin. This chapter is called The Magic of Nimue and Morgana Le Fay. On the day following the Feast of Pentecost, on which the Round Table was set up in Camelot, King Arthur rode alone in the forest, sorrowing for the strange words of Merlin. And as he rode, suddenly Merlin himself stood before him. "I come to bid you farewell," said the good enchanter, "and to speak my last word of warning. Have good care of the sword Excalibur, and of the magic scabbard of it, and beware of the evil woman who shall steal it from you, she who shall be the mother of the evil knight who shall strike you down upon the field of Camlan. Yet she shall be with you at the last, her evil purged away, and she with others shall bring you to Avalon. Of these others, the ladies of Avalon, one awaits me, even the Lady Nimue. She shall bury me in the earth while I yet live." "May not you escape her by your magic arts?" asked Arthur. "O Merlin, I would not lose you." "Nay, it is my fate," answered Merlin. "It is for the glory of Logres, and for you. Now you must show your worth and stand alone." Then Merlin went on his way deeper and deeper into the forests, following the Lady Nimue, and they came to the land of Gwynedd, where Pant was king and lodged in his castle. And on the morrow, before they went on their way once more, Merlin spoke with King Pant's wife, whose name was Elaine. "You have a son," said he, "a marvellous youth, whom the Lady of the Lake took from you when he lay in a cradle, so that he dwelt with her for many years. I would see this boy before I passed from the ways of men, for his name is Lancelot. And another Elaine, in the times to be, shall bear him as on Galahad. And these two knights shall be the best of all the Round Table, and the chiefest glory of the realm of Logres." And when Merlin saw Lancelot, he blessed him and bade him ride to the court of King Arthur before the next Feast of Pentecost, and asked to be made knight, saying that it was Merlin's last wish before he laid himself living in his own grave. And then, while King Pant and Queen Elaine and young Lancelot marvelled at his words, Merlin departed from among them, and went into the hills of North Wales, while Nimue went before him, playing upon the scythe and magic harp of Wales, and singing strange songs of weird and wonderful enchantment. At length they came to the place appointed, and there, under the shadow of a fair white hawthorn covered in flowers, Nimue sat down, and Merlin laid his head upon her lap. Then, singing and playing, she wove a great magic round about him in 9 circles, round Merlin and round the hawthorn bush. Merlin slept and woke again, and now it seemed to him that he dwelt in the fairest tower in the world, and the most strong lady, he said, "You have taken from me all my magic, so that never may I come out of this tower. Stay but with me, and leave me not alone in these enchantments." "I shall go forth before long," answered Nimue, "for King Arthur is in great danger, and now that you may stand by him no longer, I must go to his aid. Morgana Le Fay is weaving her wicked spells to entrap him. I must leave you and go speedily, but first I will give you rest, that you may sleep through many centuries, until the day dawns that you shall wake." Then, as if walking in his sleep, Merlin rose to his feet and went down a narrow stairway which opened in the ground before him. Down and down he went into a dark stone room beneath a great rock, and he laid himself upon a great slab of stone like a table and fell asleep. Then Nimue by her magic closed up the passage leading to the light, and went her way swiftly towards Camelot, leaving Merlin to rest in his dark tomb. And there he lies until the day of his awakening, when the circle of Logres shall be formed once more in this island. But whether he rests in the magic of the forest of Broccolande, or in the Isle of Bards in Cornwall Crag, or beneath the woods of Bragdon, no one can tell until that day. Meanwhile, King Arthur hunted in the mysterious forests of South Wales with Sir Uriens, his brother-in-law, the husband of Morgana Le Fay, and with the brave knight Sir Accolon of Gaul. Far and fast they followed a certain great hart, mile after mile, until they were quite lost in the forest, so fast that at length their horses fell dead under them, and still they followed that hart, for it was now so weary that it could hardly move. They came out from under the trees, down a grassy bank, and saw the hart fall to the earth and die. And then, looking round, they discovered that the bank sloped down to a great sheet of water, and that a small ship, all hung with rich silks, was drawing in beside the shore. The ship came right to them, running in against the sands so that they could step aboard. But there was no living thing to be seen anywhere upon that ship. "Sirs," said King Arthur, "let us enter this strange bark and dare the adventure of it." So they went aboard and found it a passing fair ship, very richly furnished and draped with rare silks. It was evening when they came down the bank to the waterside, and the night fell rapidly after they had stepped onto the ship, so rapidly that in a few minutes it was pitch dark. Then suddenly great torches appeared all along the bulwarks, so that the decks were brilliantly lit. The ship moved across the still dark waters, while 12 fair damsels came out from the cabins and served them with all the meats and wines that ever a man could desire. Sweet music played softly all the while, and the whole ship was fragrant with the heavy scent of strange flowers. The king and his 2 companions were weary after their day's hunting, and after they had supped and enjoyed the cool night air on the deck of that strange vessel, each of them was led below to a rich cabin prepared for him alone. And before long each of them was laid in a soft, comfortable bed, and that night they slept most marvellously deep. On the morrow, Uriens woke to find himself at Camelot, in his own bed, beside his wife, the enchantress Morgana le Fay, and much he marvelled how he came 2 days' journey during one night's sleep. His wife smiled deeply and mysteriously, a strange, evil light glimmering behind her great dark eyes, but she said nothing of the matter, though well she knew. King Arthur, however, woke to find himself in a dark and dismal prison, a damp, unwholesome dungeon beneath some great castle. And he heard in the darkness the groans of 20 knights who were also held there in cruel captivity. "Who are you that so complain?" asked King Arthur. And one of them replied, "We are 20 knights kept prisoner here, and there are some of us who have been here as long as 8 years. "How does this happen?" asked Arthur. "The lord of this castle," answered the knight, "is an evil man called Sir Damas, who wrongfully holds the castle and lands from his elder brother, the good knight Sir Outlake, and he takes captive all those who come to the castle and shuts them in this miserable dungeon." As they were talking, there came a damsel bearing a lamp, and said to King Arthur, "What cheer, sir?" "I hardly know," he answered, "nor can I tell how I came to even be in this evil place." "Sir," she said, "you shall be set at liberty and win the freedom of all these knights also, if you will but fight for my lord. For his brother will this day send a champion to do battle for him, and whoso wins shall become lord of all these lands." "Now," said King Arthur, "you have set me a hard question. Your lord, Sir Damas, is an evil knight, and I would not strike a blow in his defence. Yet had I rather die in battle than linger to my death in this dungeon. If Sir Damas will release all those who lie imprisoned here, I will do battle to the death in his quarrel." "It shall be so," said the damsel. "Then I am ready," said Arthur, "if I had but a horse and armour." "You shall lack neither," she assured him, "but do follow me." They came up from the dungeon and out into the clear sunlight of the courtyard. "Surely, damsel, I have seen you before," said King Arthur. "Were you ever at King Arthur's court?" "No," answered the damsel, "I never came there in all my life. I am but the daughter of Sir Damas, lord of this castle." But she spoke falsely when she said this, for she was one of the damsels who served Queen Morgana le Fay. At the same moment that Arthur found himself in the dungeon beneath Sir Damas's castle, Sir Accolon of Gaul woke also from his charmed sleep, and found himself lying in a pleasant courtyard, but at the very edge of a deep well, so that if he moved but a little, he would have fallen into it and found his death many, many feet beneath. When Sir Accolon found where he was, he blessed himself and said, "Now may God save King Arthur and King Uriens, for those damsels on the ship have betrayed us. Surely they were fiends and not women. If I ever escape from this adventure, I will slay all women who deal thus in black magic and wicked enchantments." While he was thinking this, there came a dwarf with a great mouth and a flat nose, and saluted Sir Accolon, saying, "I come from your lady, Queen Morgana le Fay, and she greets you well as her dear love, and begs you for her sake to fight for her this day with a strange knight. and for this she sends you King Arthur's own sword Excalibur and its scabbard, and bids you fear not, but do battle to the death without any mercy as she's instructed you. She bid me to also tell you that her husband lies dying, wounded to the death by a traitor's hand, and that you shall wed her and be king of Gore in his stead. I did indeed promise to fight for her, said Sir Accolon, and you will truly come from her, since you bear the sword Excalibur, and all these enchantments must be her doing, so that I might do battle against her unknown enemy and slay him. Sir, it is even as you say, answered the dwarf, and you do well to fight in this battle. Then he drew Sir Accolon from the side of the well, and afterwards led him to the hall of the castle, where Sir Outlake awaited him with 6 squires. When Sir Accolon had eaten and drunk, these armed him in strong armour, set him upon a mighty war horse, and led him out to the field of battle, midway between the castles of Sir Outlake and Sir Damas in a fair green meadow. Meanwhile, 6 squires of Sir Damas had led Arthur also to the hall of their master's castle, given him food and drink, armed him well, and led him out of the gate. As Arthur rode from his castle, another damsel came to him, bowed low, and said, Sir, your sister, my mistress, Queen Morgana le Fay, greets you, and she sends me to bring you your sword Excalibur, which you left in her keeping, for she hears that this day you must engage in battle. Here is the sword and the scabbard also, and my mistress kneels now, even now in prayer for your safety. King Arthur thanked the damsel and went towards the battle with a lighter heart now that he had his own sword and magic scabbard, the wearer of which would never lose much blood, however sorely he was wounded. These 2 knights, King Arthur and Sir Accolon, in strange armour with closed visors and no devices on their shields to show who they were, met together in the green meadow, neither knowing the other. They jousted with their spears first of all, so mightily that neither might sit his horse. They then drew their swords and went eagerly to battle, smiting with many great strokes. But always King Arthur's sword failed to bite as Accolon's did. But Accolon's sword bit through King Arthur's armour at every stroke, until his blood ran down and dyed all the meadow. But Accolon bled scarcely at all, though Arthur had wounded him once or twice. And when King Arthur saw his blood upon the grass, and felt how his sword in his hand bit not into the steel as it was wont to do, while Accolon's drew blood at every stroke, he felt that there had been treason and black magic used to change the swords, for he became more and more certain that in Accolon's hand gleamed the true Excalibur. Now, Sir Knight, beware, for I am going to hit you again, taunted Sir Accolon. Arthur, without replying, struck so hard that he went staggering back, but Accolon struck once, and Arthur fell to the ground. He was stood up again, however, and they struck many more great strokes at one another. But always King Arthur lost so much blood that it was a marvel that he still stood on his feet, and only so brave a knight could have fought on well enduring such pain. At last the 2 of them paused to rest, and all of those who had gathered to watch the battle spoke well of them, but lamented that one of 2 such brave knights was doomed to die. And amongst those who watched was the enchantress Lady Nimue of Avalon, she who had put Merlin under the stone, and who arrived only after the battle had begun. This is no time for me to suffer you to rest, exclaimed Sir Accolon suddenly, and thereat he came fiercely against Arthur once more. But Arthur, wild with rage and pain, whirled up his sword and smote Accolon so hard upon the helmet that he fell to the earth. But at that stroke the sword broke to pieces in his hand, leaving only the hilt and crossbar. Accolon sprang up again and rushed at Arthur, who defended himself with his shield, though certain that now there was no escape. Knight, jeered Accolon, yield you to me as craven and vanquished, or else I will smite off your head with my sword. Nay, said Arthur, I cannot so shame my vows. If it were possible for me to die 100 times, I would rather that. For though I lack weapon, yet shall I lack no honour. And if you slay me weaponless, it is you who will be shamed. I'll take the risk of that, cried Accolon. Run away now, for you are no better than a dead corpse already. He slashed at Arthur again, but the king took the blow on his shield and hit Accolon across the visor with his broken sword so hard that he staggered back 3 paces. As he did so, Nimue, by her magic, loosened the scabbard at his side, so that it fell to the ground in front of Arthur, who caught it up and buckled it to his belt. Accolon came on once more, struck a stroke that might have cleft Arthur's head to the chin, but Nimue waved her hand once more, and the sword twisted from Accolon's fingers and landed point downwards in the ground. Arthur leapt forward, took the sword in his hand, and knew at once by the feel of it that it was his own Excalibur. "Aha!" he cried. "You have been from me all too long, and you have done me much damage." And then to Accolon, "Sir Knight, it is you who should stand near to death, for this is my own sword, shall reward you well for the pain I have endured and the blood I have lost." Therewith he leapt at Sir Accolon and smote him to the ground so hard that the blood burst out from his mouth and nose and ears, and he stood over him with Excalibur raised to strike, crying, "Now I will slay you." "Slay me you well may," gasped Accolon, "for never will I yield. I also vowed by my knighthood never to yield with my life. Slay me therefore, since I will not live shamed." "You are a brave knight and an honourable," said Arthur, lowering his sword. "Tell me of what land you are and who you serve." "Sir, I am of the royal court of King Arthur, and Accolon of Gaul is my name." "Tell me, who gave you the sword?" asked the king, much dismayed as he remembered the magic of the ship. "A sorrowful sword it has been," said Accolon, "for by it I have got my death." "That may well be," said the king, "but how came it into your hands?" "From Queen Morgana le Fay," answered Accolon sadly. "I have loved her long and she me, and I promised to fight and slay whom she would, even though it were Arthur and the king, for which reason she sent me the sword this day, telling me that her husband, King Urience, was dead, and I should be king, indeed if I conquered in this battle. But tell me, who are you that she would have me slay?" "Ah, Accolon," said Arthur, "do you not know that I am the king?" When Accolon heard this, he cried out loud, "Fair sweet Lord King Arthur, have mercy on me, for I knew you not." "Mercy you shall have," answered Arthur, "for I see that this battle was not your doing, but my sister's." "Ah, Accolon, she has deceived me also by her beauty and her magic wiles. The good Merlin warned me, but I would not take warning. Now will I send her from my court, or slay her if she bring any man to his death." Then King Arthur made peace between Sir Damas and Sir Outlake, and when he had done this, their squires carried him and Sir Accolon, who was even more badly wounded, to an abbey nearby in the forest, and Nimue came with them and tended on them. Sir Accolon died of his hurts before the next sun rose, but Arthur recovered slowly. Meanwhile, Queen Morgana le Fay, thinking him to be dead, was continuing at Camelot for her wicked plans. On the very day of the battle, she found her husband, King Urience, lying asleep on his couch, and at once she called one of her damsels to her and said, "Go, fetch me my lord's sword, for I never saw a better moment than wherein to slay him." "Ah, madame," cried the damsel, "do not do this thing. You will never escape if you murder your husband." "That is no concern of yours," answered Morgana le Fay. "This day I decreed that he shall die, so fetch me the sword quickly." Away went the damsel, but she sought out Prince Uwaine first of all and said, "Sir, come quickly and wait on my lady your mother, for she is going to murder the king your father. I am fetching the sword for her to do it." "Bring her the sword quickly," said Sir Uwaine, "or she will slay you also." With trembling hands the damsel brought the sword to Morgana le Fay, who went swiftly to where King Urience lay sleeping. But as she raised the sword to strike, Sir Uwaine sprang out from the hangings and seized her arm. "Ah, fiend," he hissed, "what wickedness are you at? Were you not my mother, I would kill you here and now. I think you are a devil, not a woman." "Have mercy on me," begged Morgana. "It was the devil who tempted me to this deed. The fiends of darkness are ever ready to lead astray those who know too much of their secret arts." "You shall vow upon the holy sacrament never to attempt such a deed again," said Uwaine, and to this oath Morgana le Fay pledged herself. And a little while later one of her damsels came to her that Sir Accolon was slain. Came to tell her that Sir Accolon was slain, and King Arthur resting at the abbey in the forest. When he returns to Camelot, she thought, he will surely slay me for striving to bring about his death. I will go speedily from court before he comes. Then she set out with her men-at-arms and her damsels, but told Queen Guinevere that she was going riding in the forest. On her way, Queen Morgana le Fay came to the abbey where Arthur lay, recovering from his wounds, and suddenly she thought that now at least she could steal his sword Excalibur. "The king lies sleeping on his bed," she was told, and gave command that no one was to wake him. "I am his sister," answered Morgana very sweetly. "Let me come, just to watch by his side for a little while, there to pray for his speedy recovery." So they brought her where he was, and left her with him. She found Arthur lying asleep with his sword Excalibur naked in his right hand, but the scabbard leant against a chair at his bedside. At least I can take this from him, she thought, and hiding it beneath her cloak, she went quietly out of the abbey, mounted her horse, and rode on her way. Presently, King Arthur woke and missed his scabbard. Then he was very angry and asked who had been there while he slept, and they told him that it was Queen Morgana le Fay. Alas, said Arthur, falsely have you watched me. Sir, they answered, we durst not disobey your sister's commands. Then Arthur called for horses, and he and Sir Outlake went galloping through the forest after Queen Morgana le Fay and her attendants. Before long they saw them, and the chase began fast and furious. Nearer and nearer came Arthur and Outlake, until at last she realised that there was no escape. Then she rode to a deep lake in the forest, and threw the scabbard into the middle of it, crying, whatever happens to me, I will at least make sure that my brother never has his scabbard again. And it sank, for it was heavy with gold and precious jewels. After this, Queen Morgana led her followers into a valley filled with great stones, and by her magic turned herself and all of them into stones also, so that when King Arthur and Sir Outlake came among them a few minutes later, neither Morgana le Fay nor any of the people were to be seen. Here has been an evil magic, said Arthur, crossing himself, and when he had searched long and vainly for the scabbard, they rode back to the abbey, and thence to Camelot, where Guinevere and all the fellowship of the Round Table rejoiced greatly to see them. But as they sat at meat in the great hall that evening, a damsel came in and bowed low before King Arthur. My lord, she said very humbly, I come from your sister Queen Morgana to beg her pardon of you for the wickedness that she has done. Never again after this day will she strive to hurt you, for the fiend has gone from her which tempted her to evil, and in token of her great love and true repentance, she sends you to this mantle, the fairest in the world, and whoso wears it shall never suffer pain any more. When all saw the mantle, they marvelled at it, for indeed it was a passing fair, set all with precious stones and embroidered with gold and silver. And King Arthur was happy in the gift of the mantle, and put out his hand to take it. But the Lady Nimue, who had returned to Camelot with him, cried out suddenly, Lord King, put not the mantle until you know more of it. Let this damsel set it upon her own shoulders, ere it come on yours or any others in the hall. It shall be as you counsel me, said King Arthur. Damsel, I would see the mantle upon you. Sir, she said, I am not worthy to wear the king's robe. To wear a king's robe. Nevertheless, you shall wear this, commanded Arthur. And so perforce the damsel drew the mantle close about her. And immediately there was a bright burst of flame, and she fell to the ground, a heap of smouldering ashes. And after this, Queen Morgana le Fay dared never again enter the realm of Logres, but went to her own castle in the land of Gore and fortified it strongly. The end.